Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight with your host, Tristan Johnson. Hi. Just want to give you guys a rundown on my streaming schedule. The regulars know that I've got my opening spiel. Hi, I'm Tristan from Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up, and I stream 3 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. On Mondays, I stream from 12 till 2 Eastern Time. It is called Monday Discourse. I am joined usually by my co-host Mia Mulder, and we talk about stuff going on the internet, and it's all really, really fun stuff. Last stream of the Trump era, that's true. It is also January 19th, 2021. I don't know if anyone needs a reminder, but I always say that. On Tuesday nights, the show you're watching right now, which goes from 7 till 9, is Step Back Tonight, where I try to chillax and talk to people and hang out, and we just have a nice relaxing couple hours together in the evening. Be very relaxing because like my brain is half asleep right now. I try to take 30 winks before the stream started, but I wasn't able to really, my brain wasn't really able to fully wake up after I got woken up, so. And then the Reactor, which I do on Fridays from 12 till 2, which is where people send links via the Discord, and I react. It's fun stuff. Just some heads up because of my surprise move. I am moving to a new house. I was going to be moving on the 11th, but because of some last minute surprises, I'm actually moving on the 31st. So what was going to happen in a few weeks is now happening in less than 2. So as you can imagine, things are going to be quite chaotic here around the Step Back factory. So I am going to be taking 2 days off of streaming next week. I'm going to be taking January 29th and February 1st off of streaming, just because I'm going to be one I'm going to be packing before, and the other one I'm going to be adjusting to a brand new house, and I don't know if I'm going to have my camera and computer and stuff all set up yet. So yeah. I go by he, him pronouns, and if you like my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. If you are watching this on Twitch and you are a user of Amazon Prime for the delivery, for whatever, just know that every single month you get access to 1 free Twitch Prime subscription. Costs you nothing, and every time you use your Twitch Prime subscription on a user on Twitch, they get a little bit of money to support their attempts to make a living off of providing you with free entertainment. So, I highly recommend that if you have Amazon Prime, that you use it, because if you don't use it, Amazon just gets to keep your money. You're leaving it on the table. So, send some Bezos bucks to an independent Twitch creator. It'd be nice if it was me. But you know what? I really want you just to use it on any independent creator because we have businesses. I sound really out of it. Oh, dear. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I got some cold water. We'll see what happens. You know that feeling when you wake up in a certain stage of sleeping, where the world just seems completely completely unrealistic. I don't know, everything feels weird. That's sort of the thing I'm in right now, but I'm coming out of it. I'm feeling better already. Yeah. If you want to look up for content that is coming out or has recently come out on Step Back or Tristan Won't Shut Up. On Tristan Won't Shut Up, I recently made a video about Star Trek and why you should be watching it. It's a very good video. I'm very proud of it. It's one I've been wanting to make for a long time. If you are interested in that, you should definitely check it out. And I'll have another video on that. I decided that I was originally going to make a video about CyberSyn as my next video for that channel. But I realized that sounds more like a Step Back video, does it not? So I decided to axe that idea and put it on Step Back. And then for Tristan Won't Shut Up, my next video I'm going to make is sort of a how-to guide on standing out. I've had this sort of thing in my head about the 3 strategies where if you're going to try and get into something like, hey, Budwedgel, thank you for following. Welcome to the Orc Gang, and thank you for subscribing. Much appreciated. Keeping this shit going. This next video I'm going to make for Tristan Won't Shut Up is going to be sort of a how-to guide for trying to make content that is relevant to people out there. It's essentially the 3 strategies that you can go about trying to do something. Like, say, I could just talk about it with you guys here, but very briefly, it is, if there is an area that you want to go into, like, say, making leftist YouTube videos, or you have a topic you want to cover, there are 3 ways to do it. One is to do something that nobody has done before. It's the hardest one. It's the most experimental one and the most, possible to have a lot of failures, because you're basically going to be a pioneer trying to figure out and experiment with brand new things. The second is to do something that somebody else has already done successfully, but do it better. This, I would say, there's a lot of YouTubers who've done this, upping the production quality, better writing, faster schedule, something like that, in order to be better than the other people, so that you can stand out. And the third is to take 2 things that are seemingly unrelated, or it's 2 things that have never been combined, and combine them together into a thing. That's like my combination of things. 3 ways that you can try and stand out if you wanted to do something and you wanted to be good at it. Or if you want to, I shouldn't say be good at it, because it isn't actually about being the best. It's about making something that is different enough that you are considered unique. I guess it's the 3 ways to be unique. All right. What else we got? Hey, thank you for the subscription.
Woohoo! I hope you do the video on the 1776 Commission, because it's a real joke. I know it'll be a while, though.
Yeah, I hope it's not, like, out of the news and nobody's really talking about it. Because, like, the thing is, the 1776 Commission might just be scrapped by Joe Biden in his, like, first few days. So, if that's the case, then it might not be worth even bringing up, but we'll see where it goes. Step Back, my latest video is on Martin Luther King and the Poor People's Campaign and his assassination and that kind of stuff. Came out yesterday. I was very happy with it, and people seem to be liking it, so recommended. And my next video on Step Back, which comes out sometime before the 29th, I should say. Let's just twist this thing a bit so that you can hear me better. Yeah, the next Step Back video is going to come out on by next Friday, basically. And it's going to be on the Yakuza, because Boxu came back, and so I needed to find another topic on Japanese history. And this is one that stuck out as one that I should try, because I think it would be interesting and fun and different. All right. Next up, if you want to submit questions for future streams, I've got a whole lot of questions to go through. But if you have a question that you want me to like absolutely get to at some point, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let me press the enter key right now. And once that gets out to everybody, you can go to that link, put in the things, and I'll put it in my big old collection. And last but not least, I'm sorry. Thank you for putting up with this whole 10-minute opening act that I do. I want you to... This channel's been growing quite a bit to the tune of like almost 200 subscribers a day. So there's a lot of new faces who are watching this stream for the first time. So if this is your first time watching the stream and you've never posted in the chat before, please post in the chat and make yourself known and say hello. We've got quite a good community. We've been doing these streams now for a couple years, and so there's some people who've been here for quite a while and built like a real community here. So I hope that you join in. When is the Project CyberSyn video coming out? We'll see. I have to see what my step back release calendar looks like. Because once we get into, like, right now, there's like this black hole that exists on January 31st when I move. And after that, I don't know what my schedule is going to look like. And I have like videos that I want to do. CyberSyn's on the list. I have to kind of see how well it's performing. So the goal is to get Tristan off track. Oh boy, it's gonna be very easy today. I remember Cyber 6. That was a weird show. That was like one of those American animes, if I remember correctly. That was sort of like a kid-friendly version of Aeon Flux, almost, about a woman who does cool, like, martial arts stuff, and then by day pretends to be a male teacher at a university or something. And the villain was like a 10-year-old boy. It was a weird show. I don't really know that much about what was going on. It was Canadian. It was an adaptation of a very adult Argentinian comic. Oh, well, there you go. You told me how much writing was involved in a history, but was there anything else you wish you had known before you started your degree? I mean, I really wish I knew that... I guess if you're starting a history degree, read. You're going to get a lot of readings, especially if you go into graduate school for history. To some general study tip stuff, like learn how to space that stuff out so that you don't find yourself rushing and being behind on stuff. And I think the other thing is just about university degrees in general is you, depending upon what your goals are for after undergrad, like if your goals are to go to grad school and you know that at the beginning, then you know what grades you need to hit. But if you don't need to go to grad school, this is not something that like your parents would give you advice about, but your grades are not as critical if you're just going for the degree, and you just need to keep your grades high enough to stay in the program and keep out of academic probation, and that university is a great place for a great time for learning how to be yourself and learning how to and having access to a social calendar and stuff like that like you'd never have before, so or after. And so don't forget to I guess the whole long thing is to say don't forget to enjoy it is the thing. When I was a history undergrad, I ran the history club for a year. I was the humanities senator. I was in the academic senate for the humanities for a year. And I was just really involved, and I did a lot. And I feel like I got a lot out of that if I had, really, really doubled down to get the best grades, I still would have gone to grad school, and I would have walked away with a lot less experiences that came from those kinds of things. What will be the similarities and differences between Project CyberSyn and a modern planned economy? That's a good question. In a planned economy, or I think that CyberSyn was, first of all, a product of the 1970s. That's the main difference. It was computerized, but it was also very rudimentary because it was still from the days when computers were using punch cards. So a modern planned economy would be much more sophisticated and use a lot more of the advancements that have come in the fields of logistics that have developed in the last 40 years. So, do you not have different levels of degree in Canada? I mean, you can get honors degrees and stuff like that, but like, if you're not planning on going to a professional school or anything like that, no employer is going to check your grades to make sure that you did really well. They just care that you have a degree. I miss having a social calendar. Me too. What's funny, actually, about this new, you'll probably start to notice very quickly that this new house and this moving is like all I can think about these days. It's basically consumed my entire life. Anyways, the new place that I'm moving to is actually close to a lot of my friends, including my former supervisor. So I'm looking forward to being able to do stuff with people again. And my backyard has a fire pit, so I'll be able to have campfires. And I don't know about, we don't know for sure. We're going to check. We're going to go see it next week. But I think there is a possibility that it might have a gas hookup for a barbecue. So I might be able to have an outdoor barbecue that doesn't have to get propane every so often. So that's fun. Did you hear about Derek Sloan taking money from a neo-Nazi? I did hear about that. Yeah, a conservative MP got like a $15 donation from a self-described white nationalist or something like that. I don't know who Derek Sloan is. I imagine he's just some member of the CPC. But Canada's got a serious far-right problem. We don't talk about it, but we do. And we ignore it at our own peril. Going back to school as a non-traditional older student is not something I'm looking forward to, but I really do plan to try to be involved. Good. Good. As I say, I learned more skills about how to be a successful business person and how to navigate organizations, which I think is useful in a career, by my job, by my working in university politics and being the head of clubs and being in different organizations. I learned more about my relationship with privilege and how to be an ally, which I know is such a cringeworthy thing to say, but I only bring it up in the context of things I learned. I learned more about that part of myself by being a member of the feminist club and being a part of the Pride Alliance at my university. Because, for 2 years I was the only male member of the feminist club, and I was the only heterosexual member of the Pride Alliance. And being in those spaces, I learned quite a bit. I was never, I intentionally made sure to never stay high up in those organizations, so I was always just there to help. And I learned quite a bit, and I made some very close friends. Getting anything less than... Alright, well, I guess in Britain it's different. I did not know that you have to grade grub in freaking Britain. Because that is not the case. The joke in places like Canada and the US, I guess, is the first letter of degree is D. There he is. What's up, Tristan? Hello, Malik. How you doing? We didn't really have an NDP group on campus either, by the way, Matt, because my university was in Quebec, and Quebec doesn't have a provincial NDP at all, and it doesn't have. I don't even think it had any federal parties. It was a very small university, and it didn't have any federal party clubs because I think the university only had like 2,700 students, and so and like 40% of them were out of province. So C's get degrees. There you go. Quebec Solidaire. Yeah, Quebec Solidaire was a pretty cool political party. But even where I went to university, like where I went to a university that was an English language university, primarily made up of international and out of province students. So QS did not have much representation where we were. It was a very like liberal heavy university. Do you think it's bad that we rank degrees like that? I discourage any form of competition in that department in a lot of ways. Like, I'm actually like, I'd go on the record to say that when it comes to university classes, I would be much more, I'd be good at pass-fail, honestly. I think that university courses should be pass-fail, and I do think that universities overemphasize the amount of importance in the academic work that you do while you're in university, and don't put as much emphasis into the importance of community and organize, like building yourself up into the person that you are by meeting people outside of your childhood social circle and learning to be yourself as a separate entity from your family, and exploring how to function in student organizations and things like that. I feel like those are very important aspects of university that because there's so much competition when it comes to grades and post-university programs, that anything that increases that sense of competition I'm not happy with. What do you think about school grades? What would you think should replace it? Grades are terrible. They are basically a way of indoctrinating a hierarchical worldview into children from the very youngest age. They don't really accomplish much. And as somebody who's been a teacher and has graded, they are very, very arbitrary. Like, sitting around looking at a 10-page essay about something and trying to debate whether this is a good paper or an excellent paper, you realize that this is a fucking... And then realizing that your decision over whether something is good or excellent has, like, an actual tangible impact on this person's future is, like, one of the dumbest things I've ever... Like, it's the worst situation you've ever been in. It's one of the main reasons I didn't want to continue being, I didn't want to continue... in academia, because I was notoriously bad at it. I was a terrible... As a TA, I feel like I was good in tutorials, and I was good at talking to people and talking to students and working things out, but I was an awful grader. I did not know how to grade at all, and I often got complaints about my marks and stuff like that. So... And so I still think that we should have a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do about, like, what's it called? Where's the thing? Where's the question here? I definitely think that a lot of classes should be replaced with pass-fail, and that we should instead of having like dedicated classes, we should have a lot more stuff that's individualized and making sure that people... the focus is to get everybody done and to make sure everybody understands everything 100%, rather than having this fierce competition. Yeah. What about medicine? I mean, like, I think that a lot of these schools and things like that should have it, should still have it based on you keep going to school until you demonstrate the competencies that you need to do whatever job it is. So if it's medical school, I don't like the idea that medical school has to be 4 years, and you have to get a high enough grade so you can move from one thing to the next, and that to get into medical school you have to be amongst the best of the best. When it's like, if you're interested in becoming a doctor and you have finished all of the things that are the requirements to get into the medical school that you eventually do, and then once you finish medical school, to the point where you have demonstrated that you know how to do all the things, no matter how many years that takes, you then move on to becoming a physician. What about tests like AP exams, SATs, ACTs, and others? They're also dumb. They're horrible. What's it called? I took my GREs for grad school, and all it is tests, standardized tests, and I know that the United States has tons of them, and the UK has even more, that standardized tests only really manage to test you for one specific thing, and that is how good you are at taking tests. And I don't want to bust anybody's bubble out there, but being a trained expert at taking government standard tests is not exactly, in my mind, the best way to get through life. I don't think you don't end up taking a lot of government standardized education tests after you're done school, and so you don't actually end up cramming a whole bunch of information into your brain so you can then barf it onto a piece of paper and instantly forget it, which I think is one of the worst ways to evaluate somebody's competencies and knowledge of different topics. Is that the Montessori approach to schooling you're describing? Maybe. I've heard things described in such a way, but these are tests administered by private companies. Yeah, you know how I feel about private companies. I made a video about the Prussian school system a long time ago, and how it's awful, and it's basically a recipe for making people feel terrible. Alrighty. Oh, man. Let's see. Would standardized tests be okay or not better if they didn't bear on the school's funding? Yeah, I mean, they would be better if they did not affect the school's funding. But I mean, that's because the less that they would have an impact on anything, the better. And that the best situation would be to do away with them entirely as a concept. I don't really know much about the Montessori system, but from what people have described to me, it is better. It's the one that Noam Chomsky used as a child, apparently, so that's good. Do they not have a use for data gathering? Like what? I don't know. I feel like a lot of times, basing the future of children based on how they do on a single test is like trying to define a trend line through a single data point already. So, I don't know. Because all that's going to do is you're going to force the school and the students to spend a whole lot of energy to maximize the highest grade on one test. Which sounds like it's bullshit. The entire population and not individual kids. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't like like you mean like psychological tests or like sociological studies. I don't know if like forcing children to study for months so that they can maximize their grade on a single test is going to really teach us a whole lot about how kids are doing. In my mind, there's a reason why, you know, a lot of kids don't have like basic skills anymore, despite that, because like this kind of like way of running things, just I don't know, tests are just like the worst way to evaluate how kids are doing in school. All right. So I got a question here from just quote university student that asked, why are Soviets so unreligious? And if I remember correctly, you're talking about the Soviet Union. Karl Marx was very anti-religion, and and in the like kind of Tsarist Russia, the church, the Orthodox Church had a lot of power, and so they wanted to overthrow that power of the Orthodox Church to put the state in charge. In Australia, we have the NAPLAN, which is a numeracy test that is done every 2 years, meant to track the learning of individuals in the state. Try to measure the effectiveness in the education system or compare the amount of learning in 1 year to another. Standardized tests are really the only way to do it. Those ideas are garbage, of course. Also, your argument for just making courses indefinite changed my opinion on grading. Well, there you go. Yeah, like I feel like you should just like be done education when you can demonstrate that you have finished all the education. And if you do that when you're 14 or when you're 24, it doesn't really matter to me. The thing is that we're trying to use the education system to, as quickly and efficiently as possible, convert toddlers into workers that are obedient and don't ask too many questions of authority. And that's the real purpose of education. It's indoctrination and political education for capitalism. But I don't think that's a good way to do that for children. Didn't Stalin bring the Orthodox Church back at one point? I don't know if it was Stalin. I think it was after Stalin. Like, Khrushchev sort of allowed for religion to be able to be practiced again. Which, because like I feel like Stalin was like he really cracked down on the church, because the church was like a question to the unchallenged authority of Stalin, which was Stalin's real interest. A boss in the house, oh boy. What's it called? I don't know if we're on good terms, a boss. I got questions from you. Literally have a question from you submitted that's just, why is knowing better than you? Why is knowing better a better channel than me? And I'm like, that's a weird question to ask. And also, I didn't make an entire video defending fucking Christopher Columbus, so I challenge that assertion. Okay. What do leftists have against the boys? I started watching it recently and thought it was amassing. It was amassing what? I don't know of any people who have issues with the boys. The only issue with the boys that I've had people come across, and it's a criticism I share, which is that season 1, because like you can tell that what's it called? you can tell that The Boys is based on a comic book that comes from the George Bush administration, because I feel like in a lot of ways the Bush a lot of ways, at least season one of The Boys, a lot of its first of all, a lot of its criticisms of American culture and American politics at the time are fairly pedestrian, to be honest. It's not really saying like organized religion that's also big business is a bad thing is like, okay, it's a very 101 take, but okay. And also there's a lot of issues with the fact that it did this sexual harassment subplot that that sort of walked, like, they didn't want to deal with how serious it was, and so they then made this character who committed sexual harassment, or actually sexual assault in like the first episode, then have this like redemption arc that felt really unearned. But even though second season of it, like the second season of the show, I feel like it really picked up and talked about how like social media like feeds the far right and stuff. So like, it's not a perfect show, and I feel like it's trying to say something without having a whole lot to say, but it's still good. All right. Okay, let's see what this is. From Christos. Oh, this is a Mia Mulder one. Never mind. Am I really just down? Everybody ticked. I have like 39 questions in this thing right now. And only 17 of those, or sorry, I have 38 questions in this collection right now, and 15 of them are for this stream. The rest of them are all for Mia Mulder, and they're all from 255. So it's like, okay, are we just going to be doing 255 questions all night? Do I want to give them the satisfaction of that? Suppose we are. It's because we didn't have... All right. Whew. I've seen Harry Turtledove say in interviews that he'd love to have his book series turn into a Netflix TV show so he can make all the money. Why do you think no one's approached him? If I remember correctly, I've answered this question before, and it's because his books aren't that mainstream popular. He's a niche. He's very much like what's called a big duck and a small pond type situation. Oh, somebody wants the link for submitting the questions. Here. He's very much a big duck in a small pond, or big fish in a small pond. Like, alternate history is an extremely niche genre already, of like the niche genre of speculative fiction. So, like, because of that, Harry Turtledove, like, if you look at like the big scale of things, is not that popular of a author. I don't think his books end up on New York Times bestseller lists or anything like that. And if they were going to make, thing is, like, making a Netflix show out of something would, like, making a Netflix show like that would be a massive investment in a massive investment of money. And if it's from like a book, like from a niche genre of books that that, you know, don't have like huge seller numbers and brand recognition, it's not like they're not gonna like, that's why everybody keeps making remakes and adaptations, is because they know that people recognize it, so it's like a already baked in audience. Harry Turtledove's fan base is not that huge, not huge enough to carry like a multi-million-dollar TV show. How many have read The Boys or Umbrella Academy? Yeah, well, that's superhero. Superhero is a genre that is known to have very broad appeal right now. Like, what do you have for alternate history? You've got, like, The Man in the High Castle, which was, like, a kind of, like, medium to medium low successful Amazon show. And you had one attempt, a big attempt to make a alternate history series on HBO with Confederate that was a giant, like, black hole. Like, it was like the media narrative around the attempt to make Confederate probably, like, made a whole lot of people who were considering alternate history fiction based on the, somewhat success of The Man in the High Castle completely go, ooh, no, I don't want the bad press of, because alternate history is like 99% of alternate history novels are, what if the slavery people won the Civil War, and what if the genocide people won World War II? And it's like, yeah, no one wants those. The Handmaid's Tale is not alternate history. It's, what's it called? It's science fiction. It's the future, or it's supposed to be the future. All I'm saying is that superheroes, the reason why superheroes are so, like, superhero fiction is already so mined out. But it is a sort of familiar genre now when it comes to TV and movies, that you can consider it a fairly safe investment. Like, if you're going to make a superhero movie, no matter who it's based on, it's probably going to do okay. Alternate history is a lot more fraught when it comes to, like, politics and in the end, there's the other thing about alternate history, and another thing about Harry Turtledove in specific, which is that alternate history doesn't lead itself to good adaptations because they're essentially Wikipedia articles and not novels and not stories. Like, Harry Turtledove tells Wikipedia articles about history and doesn't tell stories about characters who have themes and goals and stuff that happens. Which is, if you want to have a successful TV show or movie, you have to have you have to have something that has strong characters and strong characters and a good plot, which, like, I don't know, my experience with alternate history is that all of the authors of alternate history don't really, like, they had a cool idea for a setting, and they then forgot that you're supposed to have characters and a plot and a story in your story. Like, the only reason I think Man in the High Castle was able to get as far as it was is because of the author of the Man in the High Castle. Like, what's it called? It's the name is escaping me because my brain is like scrambled eggs right now, but it's the guy who wrote Blade Runner and the guy who wrote I think Blade Runner. I think Philip K. Dick, yeah. Like, in my mind, I think that The Man in the High Castle, the only reason why Amazon greenlit that series was because they were saying, oh, it's based on a novel by the guy who made Blade Runner. People like Blade Runner, so we can get Blade Runner people to watch this. Like, honestly, do Nazis dream of electric Reichs? Yeah, exactly. Alternate histories are the Elder Scrolls of literature. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. You want a TV show, a World War. Okay. I've tried to read World War like 6 times. It spends over 100 pages establishing its like 40 POV characters. Not a single one of them are compelling. It is a Wikipedia article. It is not a novel. because he had to cover this global conflict. So he had to have like 40 POV characters, and none of them have any time to do anything interesting or be of any consequence. Like, that's the thing. They just forget. A lot of these people forget to tell a story. And you can't just tell a Wikipedia article setting for a TV show. You need characters, you need a plot. And can you imagine trying to make okay, here's this novel. It didn't sell super great. It is extremely long. It is high science fiction and World War II, so it would have an absolutely massive budget, and it would deal with Nazis, which at this point in our history is kind of a fraught subject. And also, it portrays Nazis in a positive light, which is also a very fraught subject. And on top of that, it has 40 POV characters. None of them are given that much screen time, and they're not super compelling. And it's like, you try pitching that to, like, somebody who has never read alternate history and does not have this, this desire to read encyclopedia articles instead of reading stories. And you end up with, it was just it would not be a compelling story. Nothing would drive somebody to sit through and watch all that stuff happen. Like, it's just not a well-written story. Like, Harry Turtledove he has a very niche, because he has this niche audience of people who like to read about settings instead of about plots and characters. And he sells to that niche, but I don't think it would have very much broad appeal at all. Like, if you wanted to make a TV show out of, like, a alternate history setting that was interesting and was, like, well written, like, the one that comes to mind that I've always been told about is what's the thing called? I should probably find this. It's what's this novel called? The Yiddish Policeman's Union, which is, if I remember correctly, it's a detective, like, mystery novel, but it happens to take place in a alternate history setting, which is that the, like, Zionism project sent people to Alaska instead of Israel, and so there's, like, a huge Jewish state that's based out of Alaska. So that sounds fun. Like, I think that people in alternate history circles assume that alternate history is a lot more compelling of a subject than people think it is. And they don't realize that it's a genre that is very, very, very niche for very, very, very specific readership. And that outside of that readership, the genre is very inaccessible because it's for people who don't really like plots in their novels. You look like Christoph Kriwanis. Let's see what this is about. Let's see what character actor people have said I look like this time. You know what? I'll take this one, actually. Yeah, alright. Fairly good looking dude, I guess. Okay. Haha. Got some real fun people in the chat. Got a question saying, why am I so tubby? And then another one about, why do I suck? So we're in the good stuff now. Between a pillow and a soft place. What is this? Oh, it's a dog. That's cute. Okay. Who is or who are your heroes that inspire you in your lowest moments and why? Well, Malik, I've said this on this channel many times, but it's always good to talk about, and that is, if you can see, back there is a mugshot of Emma Goldman, who is my constant person of who I go to when I want to be inspired. She has been... She's stuck to the ideals of anarchism and a belief in beauty and freedom and liberty in much more dire and dark circumstances than I've ever been through. And so I always think about her and her tenacity whenever I'm in a low place. All right. How would newspapers, radio, television, the internet, and other media work under a socialist system? They would be for public ownership. So newspapers, like, I mean, we have state broadcasters and things like that. Socialist newspapers would be, I would hope, that they would be publicly owned. Not owned by a state, but owned by different, co-ops and groups of people. Same with the internet is already like basically supposed to be a public utility. It just happens to be privatized. So you just have the infrastructure. So you just maintain it like just the same way that that the states run all the other things on the internet, like with the infrastructure and everything like that. And yeah, everyone has the right to get websites and all that kind of things. Good work in the new We're in Hell video, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, what's it called? That video, I was involved with that video because he came to me about a video about conspiracy theories at the last big meetup we had in Toronto. And then a few weeks later, the two of us, me and I don't think he said his name yet publicly, but me and him, we met up for coffee once, and I talked about like American history and conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. So I set him on a lot of his research path for that video, or at least I tried to. And then that just happened to turn into my last social outing before the pandemic closed everything down. So he was the last person that I went and got coffee with before we all had to stay inside for over a year. So, or stay inside for, gosh, we're at what? 10 months now? But a lot of things on the internet, Amazon should be a public utility. Facebook and Twitter and all them should be public utilities, all those kinds of things. And the media should be run by big arts programs and things like that. And incubators and stuff. How did political campaigning work before TV, internet, and radio? Newspapers and live events. A lot of political campaigns were based on people going from town to town and doing live events, which then the newspaper would write about. And on top of that, politics back then was also just based on here's $50, go out and get me 10 Polish votes. That kind of thing. Why is Mr. Beat better than Mr. Beast? Man, I don't even know how Mr. Beast does his thing. Mr. Beast is he's just I somehow, how does Mr. Beast have millions of dollars to spare on his weird shenanigans? I've never seen a Mr. Beast video in my life. All I know is he's just I leave $1 million tip at Starbucks. And it's oh, okay. Is that why you see those photos of politicians waving on trains? Yeah, probably. Yeah, but like campaigning back then, you'd have a lot more of events and stuff. What the WTF is Mr. Beast? Mr. Beast is a really, really popular YouTuber these days, and he's like, in YouTuber circles, he's known for being huge because he's like a very academic person when it comes to studying how to like optimize like titles and thumbnails, and like every single aspect of his videos are hyper optimized to push social media recommendation engines to push his content as much as possible. So like he's the guy who's really behind like realizing that maximizing click-through rate on thumbnails and like all that kind of stuff is like the key thing to notice. And he like studies the like retention graphs on his videos really closely and all that kind of stuff. He's like the king of that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, his content is just like, I give a lot, like he does stuff like I buy random people houses on Twitch or something like that, and kind of makes videos of their reactions and things like that. But like there's a lot to respect in like the fact that he's like, people watch Mr. Beast in the same way that like a while back people were looking at oh my god, who was that? Not Casey Neistat was another really big one. But who is that guy who was making those documentaries about conspiracy theories? And then he turns out he's who's the guy who basically said I didn't fuck my cat. I can't remember what that guy's name is right now. But he was also exploding. Shane Dawson. Yeah, Shane Dawson was another person who was like really, really good at studying the analytics to figure out exactly what people wanted and how to make content that is like constantly compelling and very, very like engaging with high click-through rate and all that kind of stuff. Like, these are people who are masters at that kind of like internet marketing stuff. Shiba dog in combat position. Aw. Greetings from Germany. Hello. Thank you for following in Camera Nettle and for Esco Basidio. And people wanted him to say he didn't fuck his cat. No. I mean, his Twitter content is less good, but like Shane Dawson knows how to make an entertaining video. I've never seen a Mr. Beast video, so I can't really talk about it, but he obviously knows how to keep people entertained for whatever thing that he's doing. He gets some absolutely insane click-through rates on his thumbnails from the people I know who've met him. And yeah. Oh man. So this is just a request for me to make a video. Thanks. I've already got hundreds of videos I want to do. Somebody submitted a question with the name Knowing Better, and it just says, "What's wrong with Columbus Day?" I love it. Thank you. And the other one from Adolf Hitler asking why genocide is wrong. Okay, I see where we're going here. Has Dan Olson sent you any more sick burns? Sadly, no. Daniel Olson, the best commenter. Can you go fascist without leaving the EU? If you try to go fascist, will people have freedom of movement? Won't you people just leave? I already answered that question, and we already talked about that on a Mia Mulder stream. Do you think there's any kind of possibility that Democrats will try to establish some kind of technocratic dictatorship rather than the Republicans take power and establish fascist dictatorship? I was thinking about what might happen if the U.S. goes into 2024 and it looks like a worse Trump-like authoritarian figure is going to win. Will the establishment Dems let it happen or try to get there first? I doubt they have. The thing is, that's implying a lot of ability on the side of the Democratic establishment, that they can actually do things and that they actually care about governing and power, which they don't seem to that much. Australia's coming up, which has a ton of problems. Oh, I didn't even know. Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, it's not good enough, but it would be better to be in it than to not be in it. So there's that. But meaningful climate change legislation is, we're like getting governments to do anything that like even close to what needs to be done on climate change has been impossible. And I don't think that these like climate agreements between countries is going to be the thing that, like, a bunch of powerful people who are all going to be dead when like when mass migrations and like destruction of our biosphere is going to happen, that are all slavishly dedicated to capitalism, meeting up and discussing about how to deal with the climate is never going to be a thing that I think we're going to actually result in good, anything that is sufficient to dealing with the crisis. Canadian politician who wants to legalize conversion therapy. Do you think he's closeted? I am not going to comment on that. I'm not going to go in that direction. In Ian M. Banks's The Culture, most people live in group families, i.e. something between a commune and a tribe, that consists of several adults and children living in a country estate. A minority of the population live alone or with partners in private houses. If you lived under gay-space communism, which of the living situations do you prefer? I think I answered this already, but I will re-answer and say that I would definitely want to live in the country estate with the several adults and children. I feel like that would be a real cozy experience. Is Zootopia propaganda? I mean, yes. I would refer you to a Jack Saint video on it. Including the orgies. Have to work myself up to the orgies, but hey, that's just because I come from a monogamous period in history. I don't live in the culture times. But man, just feels real cozy to... Because the thing is, like, you need more than 2 people to raise kids, realistically. And having a commune with a bunch of people who are close together sounds nice. There's a lot of sex in the culture books. Alrighty. Does sound like 1970s science fiction. Very, very big in scale and very horny. Those are sort of the two aspects of 1970s sci-fi. Hence why, like, you know, you had what's it called? Dune. The Dune series gets very big in scale and also very horny. So I'm reading a book arguing we're moving towards a post-scarcity really quickly. It made me wonder, suppose we get to a point where manufacturing becomes fully automated and incredibly resource cheap. You know how a big part of the reason life is still kind of shitty in Cuba is that no one will trade with them. Could that stop mattering? If somebody invents the equivalent of replicators and Cuba gets one of them, I mean, could Cubans even set up being better off than people in countries where governments don't own the means of production? Yeah, it's very possible. Like, I mean, personalized manufacturing would allow for a lot more autarky, which means, like, you know, being self-sufficient. And more self-sufficient societies mean more abilities to not be intimidated by like capital into doing things or into being more capitalist. So Cuba could definitely thrive in such a situation. Why do I always look sad? No. Not the first person to say that. I just have a generally sad-looking face, I guess. '80s heroic, so I was frustrated by all the dystopian SF coming out at the time. Makes sense. It still feels like a very 1970s type of approaching science fiction. It's good water. Okay. This is a question I've already answered. So do you think the next GOP president will try to say everything Biden did was illegitimate because the 2020 election was quote-unquote stolen? Like, what if Biden appoints a Supreme Court judge and his future Republican president just decides his rulings don't count? Yep. American politics, the delegitimization of Donald Trump is definitely going to lead to the Republicans trying the same shit further down the line. Don't you worry. Anything you're excited or hopeful about for 2021? I mean, the biggest one is the COVID-19 vaccine and being able to see humans. And maybe even travel. Maybe. Like, my nephew's going to be like 5 years old this year. And I haven't seen him in almost... by the time we go to see him, which will probably be Christmas time, I will have not seen him in 2 years. And I really want to see him. So, a lot of the stuff for 2021 is like geopolitically and globally, I'm excited and hopeful for COVID to finally start to be being put behind us. But I'm personally excited for like this house and for being able to travel again and being able to be with my friends again and that kind of stuff. Oh, and also Step Back is almost definitely going to get to 100,000 subscribers in 2021, which makes me very excited because I have had my eyes on getting to 100,000 subscribers on Step Back since 2015 when I started the channel. So I'm like very, 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 very excited for where that's going to go. Comparison of Trump and Andrew Jackson. Well, I'll tell you what, Duke AJ. At one point, it's on my list at some point to do a video series called "Every President Was Bad," and once I get to Andrew Jackson, that will most definitely be one of the things that I talk about. Do you think Biden will be able to halt the U.S.'s downward spiral? I mean, he could, but I don't think he will. Nor does he want to. What do you do for 100,000 subscribers? I don't know. See, like I have a giveaway. I have some more of those Emma Goldman prints that I want to do a giveaway with. I'm debating whether to do that at 100,000 subscribers or to do it at 90,000 subscribers to get people to promote my channel. But I feel like that feels a little skeezy. So maybe at 100,000 subscribers, I'll give away 3 Emma Goldman prints. That sounds fun. How do I feel about Biden's cabinet? Biden's cabinet seems terrible. It's full of like some of the worst goons from the administration, the previous administration. From ISIS. What do you mean I can't fight 80 countries at once? Oh boy. Getting some real interesting. Another one video, another one just asking me to do a video. Chairman Mao, make me steal? Question mark. Okay. Ben Empanada, how do you like my Twitter? Oh boy, it's quite something. Everyone can change sex just by thinking about it. That wouldn't be a very 70s thing? I don't know. The 1970s science fiction, like, that kind of shit was way more common. Like, 1980s is when science fiction started getting all, like, heteronormative and like what's it called? It started getting like really like military sci-fi, like very like conventional. Well, like the 1970s, it was like a bunch of like random dudes who were really horny and doing tons of drugs and writing like really weird science fiction stories. That was sort of the style of the 1970s. The Dispossessed was a very good novel. What has Bad Empanada been up to? I don't know. I haven't watched his stuff in a while. I haven't watched a lot of YouTube in a while, to be honest. A lot are asking you for considering video topics, but how do you see your channel? A lot of people are asking about you considering video topics, but how do you see your channel? What do you mean, how do I see my channel? I mean, it's right... It's been doing very well in, like, the, what's it called? It's been doing very well in, like, the last few months, so I can see it doing... My channel doing very well soon. I like this idea of doing series. That seems to work really well, and I have some really cool series that I want to do. I'm excited about the content coming up in the future. As for like a big new thing on the channel, I don't know. I don't have any big shake-up things, but right now the way the channel's going, I'm very happy with how it's turning out. So, I love how the guy writing Doctor Strange in the 70s would just get high and wander around New York to get inspiration for stories. It's perfect. 70s science fiction was just so much fucking drugs, yo. So much drugs. I love your channel. Thank you, Malik. Are you like Malik, like the head of education at YouTube? Because if so, that's pretty cool. What kind of goals do you have as far as stories you want to tell? How do you see its overarching message? I mean, the overarching message is that it's about how history is relevant to understanding the world today. Like, some people teach history like it's just like, oh, cool, aw shuck stories about the past. But for me, I think that history is very relevant to understanding the world we live in. And I like my videos to be about trying to, like, tell those kinds of stories to people. As for, like, things I have planned for the future, I actually have, like, a little thing here where I'm sort of putting together a little release schedule of stuff. Right now, I'm doing my series on the white power movement, and that still has like I have like 7. You have anything planned for Black History Month in Canada? Yes, I do have a Black History Month video that I'm working on. It's like one of the first things I'm gonna really start working on when I finish moving. But it's gonna be about Maroons. Yeah, so but after, like, starting in March, when I get back into working on my series, I have a series on the white power movement, like that's still in production, and I have, I just said here, I've got about 7 videos left to do in that series. And then after that, I want to do a series on populism. And then I've just got a series just called Dark America, which is going to be dark American history stories. I've got videos for that one on COINTELPRO, the Christian Right, the John Birch Society, that kind of stuff. That one I've got a huge amount of videos on. And yeah, I don't know. Big wise, like, one of the things I want to do in 2021 with Step Back, if anything, is that every year my goal is to just kind of keep making, like, keep the channel going the way it is, and then I always change things up. In 2021, I feel like I'm in a state right now where Step Back is pretty good. Like, I like a lot of what I'm doing, and I kind of want to focus on getting better at the product of the video, but I'm gonna stop fucking around with, like, release schedules and, like, formats. Like, I think I like my videos being about 20 minutes long, and I like my videos being about 20 minutes long. I like the bullet point structure that I give to things. So now I kind of want to focus on becoming better at the storytelling and better at like rehearsing and editing and like those kinds of things. Be honest with us. Are you depressed? I'm not. I'm not depressed. I'm not. I'm not prone to depression thinking. I know people who have depression, and I know what an experience like that is, but it's not a thing I have. My mental illnesses are based around anxiety and ADHD and stuff like that, but depression's not an issue I have. And although I do cover fucking depressing as hell topics, and maybe that's just because maybe that's something I can do. You know? Maybe I can cover all this dark shit because I don't let it make me spiral. I get, like, to me, like, the stuff that freaks me out the most is, like, social anxiety and stuff like that. That's the stuff that, like I'm always paranoid that I'm saying something that I'm very paranoid about the idea that I'm secretly making everybody around me angry, and they're too polite to tell me that the things I'm doing are annoying them or pissing them off, and that by the time they actually tell me that the things I'm doing are pissing them off, it'll be too late and the damage has been done. That's sort of like the way that I'm always like worried that I'm like burning all, or that I'm like ruining all of my relationships and stuff like that. But like, there's that, and I also have a lot of, I have ADHD, but I've actually I've worked pretty hard to get it under control, so now I am rather reasonably productive. COVID has resulted in me having a hard time keeping on track with things just because, I don't know, life just seems to weigh a lot on me with like nothing to do. And I've been dealing a lot with extended boredom, and boredom is really driving me nuts. So that's bad because ADHD, you get bored easily, but yeah. Wait, you can feel like that and not just never talk to people? Yeah. Yeah. I used to, like, because even though I feel like that, I still genuinely love spending time with people. Like, anytime somebody ever says, like, are you, like, if I ever take a test for introversion versus extroversion, which I don't think is really a thing, but I'm always, like, right in the middle. Like, I really like time to myself, but I also really love spending time with people. And I, especially these days, really, really, really miss, like, friends. Of course, all American presidents were trash, but of the ones who actually served and didn't almost immediately die, who is the least problematic in your opinion? I think my go-to would be FDR. I think FDR did more to make America a better country than any other president. Because he set up what little social safety net America has is thanks to FDR, so hard to take away that. Maybe LBJ. You've said that before. Why do you think there aren't real introverts? I just don't think it's a real, like, there's the fact that, like, it's like a dichotomy is why I don't think that it's like a real thing. Like, I don't think that there are two types of people. Like, I don't see the mechanism that would have created that kind of dichotomy. And if anything, it's a gradient. And even then, like, I don't think people are consistent enough that, like, there are introverts and they just want to stay inside and read book all the time. And then there are extroverts who just want to go out and party constantly. Like, I have a feeling like that just feels like a stereotypes that I don't like. I don't think people work. Is craving solitude a thing? Sure. But, like, I don't think people are that... You can essentialize people that easily, you know? And in many ways, a lot of discourse about introversion and extroversion just seems to be people who call themselves introverts because they want to talk about why people who like other people are dum-dums or something. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't know. I don't really see... You can't essentialize people with gender either if it's real enough. Man. I don't know. I just, like, I don't think that people seem to be that consistent in their like, their desires. And, like, the idea that, like, oh, like, I like being alone a lot, but then, like, I also like, and then it's like, okay, because of that, you are now introvert. You will never like to see friends. You just want to stay at home and read book and be smart. Oh, okay. And, like, me, it's like, oh, you have friends and like doing things. Therefore, you are extrovert. You like to go out and party and have fun. And you are a big dum-dum who can't be a smart like somebody who stay at home and read book. And it's like, okay, this is just like, it's like saying, like, jock and nerd is like are like are real categories that are, like, fully essential, and it's like, why does that mean it's not real? Well, I have never seen any studies that show that there are, like, actual extroverts and introverts, and that, like, there are like, it's not, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's much of an actual sociological phenomenon that is popular outside of, like pop psychology. What is the best way to create support you as a creator? Patreon, Streamlabs. Mr. Frank M, I would probably say most... I mean, the one thing that everybody can do is sharing content, like my videos and stuff like that, putting it on social media. But if you want to help with money, I think the best one to do is Patreon. Patreon is what allows me to budget things better. So that's the one where I can always rely on a certain amount of money coming in and budget my money around. So that's, like, you know, if there was a financial one, my number one preference would be Patreon. Yeah. Hello, this is Mumbo Jumbo, and welcome back to another video. I don't know who Mumbo Jumbo is. Emir Ibn Al as has conquered Tripoli with only 8 men. Okay, I did talk to Ilkin from Kings and Generals, and apparently my Islamic Golden Age series is going to start up again. So excuse me soon. We're gonna start having you guys are gonna start seeing Kings and Generals videos about the Islamic Golden Age. The ones that I wrote are coming back. So be excited that this, like, huge series that I wrote for Kings and Generals, like, months and months ago, is finally coming out. Part 1 came out, like, 9 months ago, and the next one's coming out, I think, sometime in the next few weeks. I saw the... he sent me an early version of it yesterday, and so I've watched it, and I'm really excited. I really like seeing my words put to, like, the big, fancy, flashy animation that you see in Kings and Generals, so that's pretty cool. Sultan Kutuz asks, why did the Baibars portray me? Oh, I don't know. The Mother of All Evil asks, why is this world such a mean-spirited, brutal one? Because we created institutions that treat people in the abstract instead of in the personal. And because of that, we've lost our innate connection to other members of our species, and it makes us cruel to each other. Have you ever heard of the Iraqi Marxist Hakim? I've heard of him. I've never seen any of his videos. What do you mean, Babars kill me? I'm so confused. What is it like having ADHD? This always confuses me. Can you articulate it? Yes, I can, Malik. I actually, it's hard to articulate a learning disability when you've had it your whole life, but I actually think I've had moments. I've had a couple of experiences that make me think that I can discuss the sort of feeling of having ADHD, because I had something called neurofeedback therapy when I was a student. It was several years ago, and I had brief moments after I finished a session of neurofeedback therapy where I think I experienced what it was like to be somebody who doesn't have ADHD. Or at least some images of it. And the thing that I would most explain ADHD is just that your brain has this inability to stop. It's essentially a lack of being able to control what you're focusing on. That's the main thing. So if you're watching a TV show, if you're not 100% engrossed in the TV show, it's going to be harder than normal to focus on what you're trying to focus on. The way that it's described brain chemistry wise is that there's a chemical that sort of it's misdiscussed. It's dopamine. It's people think of it as like a reward chemical in your brain, but what it really is it's a focus chemical. It's a chemical telling you this is the thing that you should be doing, which, you could interpret as a reward, but in many ways it's about like focusing and realizing what's the right thing that you should be doing. And ADHD brains are very desensitized to dopamine. It's hard for them to it's hard for ADHD brains, like the brain. ADHD brains are always very starved of dopamine, and so they're always looking for something to make that click in their head. And what that results in is either anything that's not interesting enough will make you desperate for any sort of dopamine, like any sort of other thing to look at. You're always looking for another thing so that it can capture your attention. Or if something does hit your brain the right way, you get into hyperfocus and it's very hard for you to stop thinking about that thing. That's basically like the core of ADHD. Another way to look at it is when they study the brains of people with ADHD, especially the brainwave activity, because I had my head hooked up to electrodes, so I got to see this. One of the things that ADHD people have is their brains are just in general overactive. There's way more synapses going off than in regular brains, and what this manifests is the times when someone's brain is like this normally, when someone who's neurotypical has a brain like this, it's when they are very, when they're tired. So much to the point where some people think that ADHD might be a sleep disorder. So if you ever have that feeling when you haven't gotten enough sleep and it's really hard for you to focus on anything, and you're kind of you're always everything bores you and that kind of a thing, that feeling is a lot like the sort of experience of having ADHD. So What circumstances got you to be hooked up like that? When I was in my master's degree, my university has therapists, like psychological therapists, and they have like a learning center for people who have ADHD or for people with different learning disabilities. So I've always had it, but I've never done anything about it. And then when I was doing my master's degree, my wife decided to, or encouraged me to see what kind of resources were available for people with my condition, because I was about to go do my master's thesis. And while I was able to do all right in my master's program, I did struggle because due dates and keeping focused on things was tough. So I went and saw the school, one of the school psychologists who is an expert in, she studies learning disabilities, and she, she had me tested for ADHD, and I was a very textbook case of it. And the thing that she was doing is that she just happened to be doing these neurofeedback therapy sessions, and I think she was doing research. Like, she wanted to figure out how bioneurofeedback therapy worked for ADHD, because she was trying it for all sorts of learning disability related stuff. And so she was just like, hey, the university would be able to pay for this if you were to get it, and I would like to be able to not only would I want to see how it does, how bioneurofeedback therapy works for ADHD, but I would be able to use this to get the university to spend more money to get more of these machines so that we could do more of it. And so I went and got these therapy treatments, and it worked really well. And on top of that, I learned a lot of stuff about how to be, how to organize myself and to become more productive. And I would never go back after that point. You need anxiety and stress to focus on university assessment. I did too. Luckily, this sort of taking control of my learning helped. Did it cost anything to participate in? I believe it did. If I remember, it cost a couple $100, but I was reimbursed because I was an employee of the university. So I had either being a student or being an employee. One of those two things got me some form of health insurance that was able to get these things paid for by the university instead of, out of pocket. I had to pay money just so that they could say that I was a patient or something like that. But it was basically I was a guinea pig in an experiment and all that kind of stuff. As a follow-up to the least problematic U.S. president thing, how does Carter stand up to FDR for you in terms of actual problems rather than getting rack-fucked? Carter's done some questionable things over over his presidential years. He's in many ways his presidency is sort of the architect of the movement of the Democratic Party into neoliberalism. What's it called? A lot of his appointees worked to undermine organized labor and a bunch of stuff that was really, really not good, and representative of the Democratic Party really breaking ties with organized labor, which I think is one of the bigger issues. Suppose FDR never happened and the U.S. went fascist in the 30s. Do you think the regime would have survived until today? Sometimes they would be better off if the U.S. went fascist in the 30s because of my present-day Germany now. The only thing about that is genocide is really bad. Why do everyone in the history community hate PragerU? Because PragerU is a right-wing propaganda mill that's run by petro-billionaires. PragerU openly lies, and they are it's open right-wing propaganda. It's not educational even in the slightest. PragerU is terrible. And also, but they're terrible and bad information, but also have a massive marketing budget. And so they're advertised everywhere. So They're like infesting discourse everywhere just by flooding it with fucking oil money and then spreading like absolute fucking lies. I have tried getting medication for ADHD. I tried getting Adderall, but every time I go, they basically think I'm too fat to have Adderall, so they're like, "No Adderall for you, Tubby." So they're like, so I have to like lose weight so I'm allowed to have Adderall. Your description makes me wonder if I have ADHD, but how do I tell that from autism? Autism has different, like the definitions of autism. The symptoms of autism, the symptoms of ADHD are different. Why does weight matter? The reason is because Adderall is a hyperstimulant, and so they're always concerned about your blood pressure. Because you're essentially taking a offshoot of like methamphetamines, and because of that, if you have any sort of condition where a doctor might be concerned about the health of your heart, because you're basically, your heart rate is going to go way up if you start taking like stimulants like that. So they always are like, gotta check your blood pressure, and if your blood pressure's too high, no Adderall for you, that kind of a thing. There's enough overlap that I can't trust online tests. No, you'd probably have to go to an actual therapist. What's it called? When I got tested for ADHD, I had to take like a 3-hour test. Do you think it would be possible for the United States to establish a new constitution in order to prevent balkanization, and done so under the pretense of a united front progressive movement to allow for economic and political factors to be uprooted and altered in a rapid manner, using the shift from the Articles of Confederation to current constitution and the Emancipation Proclamation's tough justice and military doctrine for the legal precedent? Oh boy. I mean, the Articles of Confederation would be a good way to start, like a United States that's sort of more like the European Union in its like structure than like the Federation, like federal or federate states right now, might be an interesting way to do things. Is it possible to have autism and ADHD? I think so, yeah. There are different types of neurodivergence, and I imagine that they are probably pretty comorbid. There's a lot of neurodivergences that are very comorbid with each other, and they all, like, having one makes you even more likely to have another. The big ones that all come together are ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, and left-handedness. Those are all, like, those are all things that are a sign that you have a brain that is significantly wired differently than average people, and so they can definitely overlap with each other. Like, because like I'm left-handed as an example. Am I familiar with the Gravel Institute? Yes, I'm a patron of the Gravel Institute. I like them a lot. And you are a lefty. I mean, I am, yeah. I am left-wing, and I also am left-handed. Yes. Why is Amr ibn al-As invading Egypt without my permission? I don't know, Umar. I guess you're just not one of the rightly guided caliphs. What do you think about the controversy around Sia not casting an autistic actor to play the lead? I mean, you should probably do that. If you're going to hire an autistic, if you're going to have an autistic character, there is several autistic actors who I'm pretty sure also autistic characters who I'm sure are actors who I'm sure would be able to do the role just fine. Obsessive compulsive disorder is very, it's very crippling, or it can be anyway. How did stock trading work before instant communication? Oh, you already asked that question in this like big pile of questions. What do you think it's like being AOC or really any Democrat politician without Secret Service in their day-to-day life? I already answered that one a long time ago. Are the GOP base fascist? I thought even most Republicans supported Medicare for all. I think that we need to have a discussion about how fascism doesn't necessarily... Fascism can and has, in the past, sold itself. It's not necessarily a capitalist ideology. It actually can sell itself as an anti-capitalist ideology. I think I already talked about that one, too. Sia, you know, the girl who sang that song about... what's it called? She's the one who sang the song about hanging from the chandelier. From the chandelier. I don't know any other Sia songs, so... But I'm going to swing from the chandelier is the one that I always think of. Went to watch something else for a few minutes. Did you answer that stock question while I was gone? I have not. Some dog people on Reddit once told me, if you already answered that one. Do you think there's any chance of even getting a shitty public option? I mean, he's already walking back on it. The Daily Poster did an article about that today. Do you think Mitch is or was, at the time I read this, making a political mistake by supporting the impeachment? I'm glad he's doing it, but I think from the perspective of what gives Mitch McConnell the most power, making a big miscalculation. I actually think that he knows what he's doing. He knows that they're moving into a Senate and a Senate that's going to be Democratic controlled for the next few years. So I think that Mitch McConnell is triangulated that having a post-presidency impeachment is a kind of thing that would waste a whole lot of time in the very critical early days of the Biden administration. So I think he knows what he's doing. He's trying to get them to waste a whole lot of time. Does it take you out of a historical story if the author ignores the fact communicating over long distances took days until like 200 years ago? I did not know that there are historical stories that have instant communication. I don't know. I don't read a whole lot of historical fiction, so... How did being a stockbroker work in before instant communication? Like, if you were in LA in the 1880s, wouldn't the info you'd be getting from New York be super out of date? Yeah. If you were a person who owned stocks in the olden times, you usually were rich enough to have a stockbroker who lived in the city where the exchange was, who would take care of your stocks for you. And if you wanted to do any stock trading, you would need to use whatever the fastest mode of communication was of the day. So there was a time when stock trading was done via telephone. There was a time when stock trading was done via telegrams. Early 20th century, a lot of telegrams. Or 19th century. So, yeah. And now they have people getting like the most... Trump pardons COVID-19. Oh, God. And now, different stock firms that are based out of Wall Street are getting themselves hooked up with the fastest internet connection possible to the servers at the New York Stock Exchange so that they can make fast micro trading as absolutely quick as possible. Okay, well, that's all the questions for that have been submitted anyway. Oh, there's been some more. Did you know that the civil war in Yemen is so bad some flee to Somalia? I mean, yeah, it's pretty bad. Think it would be possible for the United States to establish a new constitution? I already kind of answered this. It's a lot to chew through, though. Just want to clarify, my question was more about using the constitutional shift as a precedent, not like readopting confederalism per se, more refederalizing in a new manner, such as using localities as the basis of the representation of the National Congress rather than states, and then the Emancipation Proclamation as the use of necessary force to take on capitalism and reactionaries under a tough justice logic. I mean, you are basically outlining what like a American socialist movement would use to kind of use the precedents and history of America to sell a socialist. Because there's a lot of socialism in like the American mythology and legal history that you could definitely go with. I posted a joke once as 244 AD. Did you see it? Yes. I thought it was a typo though. The quest for reduced latency is literally funding the Arctic Coast fiber line right now. Holy shit. Can you watch at least one video of Hikmah history, please? I mean, now that you've told me to, I don't want to. I'll probably end up seeing one someday. I just don't watch a lot of YouTube anymore, weirdly enough. I've been trying to keep up on podcasts, and podcasts have been taking up a lot of my time. Boss, if you want me to watch a Hikmah history video, you should submit it to the reactor. Gets all his YouTube from the reactor now. I'm not even kidding. What's it called? It's a good chunk of the amount of YouTube I watch in a week. Do you watch Matt's YouTube? Yeah, I watch ThoughtSlime videos. DC Cops on Radiolab. They had the gall to say, well, you got us mad for being too forceful in the summer. Now what do you want? I didn't answer that while you were away. I don't know how to answer that question. That's not even a question. That's just saying a thing that you heard. What if America became socialist? How would it affect both domestic and foreign policy? Well, I mean, America is one of the #1 countries in suppressing left-wing movements around the world. So, you know, not having the CIA cooing every attempt to do basic social democratic reforms would definitely be a big change. You wouldn't have Juan Guaidos going around claiming to be president of countries they didn't even run for president of. And also domestically, like, I mean, everything would change in America. America is like one of the least socialist countries on earth. They have no government. Like America, besides like the military and the police, the government there's like basically no government. It's like it's moving towards just being anarcho-capitalism, but with police and soldiers, and that's it. And like having like actual social welfare programs would make the lives of Americans so much different. What would I say to those cops? Fuck you is the answer. You're gonna tear gas people who are fighting for civil rights and then just fucking put out the red carpet for people who are trying to do a fascist takeover of the American government? Like, fuck you. I hate... Maybe what I would probably respond to that cop is, hey, where were you on January 6th? So it makes me think that you might have been in the crowd. Because it shows that, what's it called? People who are studying it show that there's like a huge amount of a huge amount of off-duty police officers were in that crowd that stormed the Capitol. So, yeah. The absolute necessity of bounty hunting to me this week. Listen, your friend Boba Fett or Dog the Bounty Hunter. Listen, if people who had debts were not able to be captured and encased in carbonite, we wouldn't have a functioning society. What would you do if a young fan sent you unsolicited nudes? I feel like a lot of people end up grooming their fans because something like that happens and they don't discourage the behavior. I would not want anybody to send me nudes, ever. If somebody sent me an email with those, I would send them an email back saying, don't do this, and then I might block them. That would be my answer. Yeah, I don't need that shit, and I never want to put myself in a position where I'm encouraging any sort of relationship like that. No. I don't know that much about Soviet councils. Should a socialist country align themselves with China, Cuba, DPRK, Vietnam? I mean, to various degrees. Those countries are fine, or no, they're not fine. They're despotic. Vietnam is not really like the other three. China, Cuba, and the DPRK are not the same country. China and the DPRK are a little bit more like, oh, that's kind of skeezy. Cuba and Vietnam aren't that bad, though. There's definitely issues with that, but... So you're not going to set up a topless section of the Discord? No, I'm not. And I don't know why Chud Logic would do something like that. Doing that is, like... Doing that is creepy, and you shouldn't do it. Is Mexi posting all the positive leftist news to a new channel? I think so, yeah. I mean, hashtag free the nipple. Okay, sure. But, like, having a channel on your Discord that's for post topless photos of yourself feels kind of creepy. Especially because you don't know what age your viewers might be. Apparently they're doing a silence. I thought you wanted me to answer this with Mia around. Did Chud Logic do that? This is the first I'm hearing about it. I don't really... Chud Logic always gave me a bad vibe, so I didn't watch his stuff, and I didn't really check out his content or know anything about his fan base. I just heard he was involved with a bunch of creepy shit about grooming a while back. Going to Cuba or Vietnam would be fun. If I went to Vietnam, it'd be fun to hang out with American Johnson and Luna. Why a bad vibe? In the same way, like, he's another one of those... Well, maybe he wasn't, but... I don't even know if there's, like, a thing I could tangibly put on it. Just, like... I'm not, like, super into content that's just dunking on bad people. Like, it's fine, but, like, it's not, like, a complete write-off. But for the most part, like, I don't know, people who just like to, who their entire content is just them like ripping on shitty people on the internet is kind of it's kind of done to me. And again, it was all just vibes, just intuition, just something about Chud Logic. I was just like, I don't know about you. I'm gonna put you. I'm gonna not watch your stuff. I'm not gonna be that into you. I don't think I was really into his videos or anything like that. I mean, it's not a great way to evaluate anything, so don't use my advice. I just was like, just a bad vibe. Reformation through boredom. Well, we'll have Mia back on Monday. Tell me who to like, Step Back Daddy. Like people who are nice and who you find entertaining. Like, I guess, like, to me, like, one of the things in, like, leftist YouTube that I'm, like, always a little skeptical of, and I'm always just like, I don't know if I want to be involved with them, is somebody who seems like they don't really care about the ideas. Like, the issues, they seem to only... They don't care so much about, like, people being in pain and being comforting and being compassionate for those who are being oppressed. But just seem interested in, like, destroying and debating and mocking people. To me, I'm like, if someone's content is entirely on that, I'm always just like a little bit put off. That's just my opinion. Because, you know, I like people who are trying to build a better world and not just trying to sit back and laugh at the chuds, you know? Hello, Jem. It's been 2 hours. Well, I'm going to go until 9. And then I guess we'll stream. We'll do a raid and all that kind of stuff. Good times. Good times. It's been a good stream. Covered a lot of ground. Do you ever listen to Rev Left or Red Menace podcasts? I don't. I already listen to too many politics podcasts. I won't lie. Will you ever do a Jackbox stream again? Probably not. I'm kind of at the point where I can't do a Jackbox stream without, like, people coming in and ruining it. I tried twice and it got a bunch of, like, racist assholes coming in, so it's, like, not fun. Thanks for the hi, Tristan. Thank you. I love your videos. Thank you, Jim. Hope you're having a good night. Have I gotten around to reading the 1776 Commission? No, I haven't. I've been... I'm like, I have barely any time to do anything, basically until February, just because this move being moved up by I was supposed to move on February 11th, and then everything got moved up by like 11 days. So now I'm panicking to get everything put together to a situation where we can move, and then also even on top of that, we're going to the next level, which is I have a Boxu sponsored video that needs to be done by the 31st. So that's the next thing I got to work on. Anyways, we're coming to the end of the stream. I'm going to raid Lexi. Everybody, it's been a real wild ride. Be kind. Be compassionate, take care of yourself, and take care of others. And I'll be back on Friday. Cheers, friends.
Politics.